28 defendants were indicted, and they were indicted for the crimes that I believe were appropriate for this RICO indictment. And so I won't speak to any person that is not named.
Brian Steele is not holding back, aka Young Thug, aka Mr. Jeffrey Williams. Y'all know we went over and reviewed a couple of the responses and motions that were filed when it comes to these extrajudicial statements and basically this gag order that the state wants to put on attorneys from speaking out against what's going on in the case. We saw Mr. Weinstein. Not only did he file a response saying, no, we're not going to stop talking, and Fani Willis was up there talking while there was an ongoing trial. But that same day that he filed his response, Doug Weinstein, Yak Gotti's representation, went and did an interview. That man is a savage. He does not care. He said, y'all are not going to silence us. We have rights. We're going to speak out against it. And then, of course, we've got Brian Steele finally responding. And this response, or this motion, actually covers several things that are going on in this case. We're not going to go through the whole thing because there's 259 pages. The man is thorough, but there are some interesting statements when it comes to this extrajudicial statements that they were trying to use to silence the defense attorney. So let's go ahead and get into it. State of Georgia versus Young Thug, aka Jeffrey Williams, aka represented by Brian Steele. And this is a letter to Judge Whitaker. What do we have going on here? Look at this title. Young Thugs. 1. Response to the state's motion to restrict extrajudicial statements filed on July 23rd, 2024. Number 2. Motion to adopt motion for fair and constitutional trial on behalf of Mr. Stillwell, as well as DeMonte Kendrick's motion for mistrial, both filed on or about July 23rd, 2024. And number 3, this is going to cover notice of non-joinder of I know I said that wrong, of Mr. Nichols' motion for mistrial and objection to mid-trial substitution of the trial judge filed on or about July 23rd. Basically, this is saying we are family and we're going to come for y'all. We're not going to let this happen. This trial's about to end. All right, let's get into it. Comes now, Young Thug, by and through undersigned counsel, and hereby files this response to everything that we just said. Okay, we're not going to read that again because y'all know I'd be up here reading crazy. Young Thug is innocent of all crimes in the above referenced indictment. Response to the state's motion to restrict extrajudicial statements. This is the one I want to see. As previously announced in open court, on the record, undersigned counsel hereby rejects and objects to any proffer made by Lawyer Love and or Hilton. So anything they say after this, y'all can just stop. We're not changing our mind, but we're going to keep it moving. On or about July 23rd, the state filed a motion to restrict extrajudicial statements. Young Thug's counsel statements referenced in the state's motion do not violate the plain language or spirit of any ethical rule. And I think we talked about, what was it, 3.6, if I remember right. And we went through and reviewed that and kind of saw what they're allowed and not allowed to say. In contrast, the state failed to alert this honorable court that before and during jury selection, when the potential jurors were not fully charged to avoid all media reports concerning this indictment, the following occurred. Ooh. They were out here talking even before things started. Fox 5 press conference with Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis Esquire, dated May 10th, 2022. Here's a YouTube video. We are definitely going to watch this. District Attorney Fani Willis, we won't call her Fanny, speaks from 11/12 to 19/7, from 2037 to 21/13, and again from 22/19 to 24/18. So how many minutes is that? That's 7 minutes. That's 8 minutes. That's a total of 12 minutes. She's talking about this. In reference to District Attorney Willis claiming her priority to prosecute gangs, and there's a reason for that. They're committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all violent crime we are seeing in our community. and so have to be rooted out of our community. I said just a week or two ago, it does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come from Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crimes, and certainly if those crimes are in furtherance of a street gang, then you are going to become a target and a focus of this district attorney's office, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. We are proud to bring forth this indictment and hopefully to bring justice to a lot of the community who were victimized through the course you'll see in this indictment. But more importantly, the most important thing we are here to do is to keep the community safe. And we believe removing these 28 defendants will keep Fulton County safer. We talked about this in past videos. I told y'all, Fani Willis loves talking. She was out here going to Big Bethel, talking to the church. She was out here doing interviews, and Brian Steele's just showing an example of that. She said, hey, y'all got Big Mama up here trying to say we shouldn't get ADA Love and Hilton off the case. Y'all need to worry about her talking to the press if that's what you're mad at us about. Then the reporter says there are some serious significant charges. I would imagine you're going to seek some pretty serious sentencing here. I know it's early, but can you talk a little bit about the sentences they might be facing? Fani says, of course. I'll give you all the details. I'm not going to keep reading this. We're going to go to the video because this is going to be way more fun. All right, y'all check this out. Yeah, and I see y'all in the chat. They just got their feelings hurt. They'll be all right. Let's go ahead and skip to, I think it was 11 something was the first one. Let's skip ahead and see what Fani's talking about.
In partnership with them, utilizing our tactical teams, we were able to go out to the individual's location and arrest him without any significant consequences to him or any other parties at the house. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the DA.
Oh, here she goes. Look at her.
Today, I'm joined by the Atlanta Police Chief, Chief Rodney Bryan, as well as my sheriff and our sheriff, Sheriff Patrick Labatt. We are here today about a grand jury indictment that was returned that included not just Jeffrey Williams, which is of some notoriety and media attention, but about 28 defendants that operated within our community between the time period of 2012 and 2022. It is our allegation that they operated as a criminal street gang and commenced to do havoc in our community. That havoc includes crimes of violence, crimes of thefts, crimes involving drugs. I've made no secret about it, nor any apology, that as the District Attorney of Fulton County, my #1 focus is targeting gangs. And there's a reason for that. They are committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all of the violent crime that we are seeing within our community. And so they have to be rooted out of our community. I said just a week or two ago, it does not matter what your notoriety is, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, and you commit crimes, and certainly if those crimes are
she getting hyped up. Go ahead.
Gang, that you are going to become a target and a focus of this district attorney's office, and we are going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. I agree with Chief Bryant. What you see yesterday and what you will see in the upcoming months and years is the result of a lot of hard work by both the Atlanta Police Department and this office. We are proud to bring forth this indictment and hopefully to bring justice to a lot of the community who was victimized through the course you see in this indictment. But more importantly, the most important thing that we are here to do is to keep this community safe. And we believe removing these 28 defendants will keep Fulton County safer.
All right, so now we're going to hear from the reporter and see what the reporter says. So we're going to keep going from until 1907, okay? And then we got a few more clips. This is interesting that she's able to say this, though, because I don't hear any allegedly. She's just up here talking like she knows they already did all this and they're the ones committing 75 to 80% of the crimes. We don't know that. It's crazy.
Yes, sir.
No, we don't support Fani over here.
The indictment's
Sorry,
got,
Fani.
Young Thug and a bunch of other rappers. There was one name I was actually expecting to see there that I didn't, and that's Jack Harlow. Can you speak to that?
What I'll tell you is that as large as this indictment is, I told my team that let's not be sexy. Now let's.
She said, "Let's not be sexy." What does that even mean? Uh-oh, we're buffering here. Y'all give me a second. Let me see if I can.
Let's not overreach.
There you go.
Let's be conservative in our approach, which is always the approach that I take. And in taking that approach, "28 defendants were indicted, and they were indicted for the crimes that I believe were appropriate for this RICO indictment. And so I won't speak to any person that is not named."
These are serious, significant charges. I would imagine you're going to see some pretty serious sentencing here. I know it's early, but can you talk a little bit about the type of sentences they might be facing?
We'll ask on the different charges for the maximum penalties, and there's obviously many people that are looking at life under this indictment. You're absolutely right. These are serious times.
Yeah, Gotti
There's
and Young
serious
Thug being one of them,
allegations,
or two of them, I should say.
It is my opinion that violence in our community deserves maximum penalties.
In a recent interview, you said in the coming weeks and months to expect indictments, RICO charges, gang charges. We see that with fear, but this is only focused on the YSL gang. At that time, you used plural indictments. Should we expect more indictments against singular gangs in the coming weeks and months? Is that what you were meaning with that quote?
Yeah, and if you're already aware, we dropped an indictment not that long ago against YFN. It is certainly a tool that I believe in, which is using RICO. I believe, the reason that I believe in it as a tool is it allows juries and the communities to see the complete picture of a crime so they can truly be educated and have facts to weigh when they're making decisions. And so if you're asking, should you expect to see other RICO indictments against other street gang organizations? Absolutely.
Two questions specific to YSL. With the 20-some people arrested here or named, how big is this gang? Is that a good portion of the gang you're operating in Atlanta, and how long were you investigating them?
If you look at the indictment, the crimes that are alleged within it go all the way back from 2012 to 2022.
Sheesh. It's a long time.
I wouldn't say that it contains every act of crime that YSL committed. It is a significant gang that operates here in Atlanta, Georgia, and not every member became a defendant within this indictment, but certainly a significant amount did, and certainly some of the leadership, which is what's most important. We're not going to just target the children that are running out at the direction of leaders and not target leaders.
Madam DA, how much?
Go ahead, Michael.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. How much did social media, the music,
Oh, please don't do that.
play a role in bringing this indictment?
Social media is a wonderful tool for prosecutors in every indictment we bring nowadays.
Yeah, well, not to mention lyrics too, which we've gotten into before, but that's the first part of it. Let's go ahead and skip ahead to, what is it, 2037 through 21. Here we go.
Could be monitored.
So I did have an opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, we don't want to hear that. This is where she comes back up.
You know, and I do not have that exact number. I can tell you approximately 10 were already in custody. I believe as of last night, we had arrested at least 3 as of last night. I expect to see more arrests today and in the upcoming weeks, but I'm realistic. It's probably going to take the next 2 weeks to get everyone in custody.
There's been some discrepancies about where Gunn is. Maybe this is better for the sheriff. Where he's being, is he in custody?
All right, and then we're going to skip ahead to 2219. I want to make sure we get all this coverage in here so y'all can see what Brian Steele's talking about.
Now, are any of the individuals considered fugitives?
Or Young Thug, I should say.
Are on the run now? Do they know that they're indicted?
In this business, I'm certain that there will be some people that won't volunteer to come into custody. There is no concern that
Talking
somebody
about Lil
will
Woody.
escape being arrested.
One last question, I'm sorry. How significant was the arrest of Christian Eppinger with regard to the timeline of this indictment? Like, I have been looking at it where that arrest set off this 90-day clock. But I'm reasonably certain you were looking at YSL before all of this. Did that create a sort of a time situation where you wanted to get this done?
No, there was long ago a time sensitive importance or significance to this particular case. I was a prosecutor, as you know, for 16 years, 4 months, and 4 days in this office. The murder of Donovan Thomas in 2015 created violence like Atlanta has never seen.
That's true.
It was a goal of my predecessor and any person or prosecutor in this office to make sure that that family received justice, because everyone is entitled to justice. It was a commitment I made from the first day I walked into this office. Very shortly after me becoming the DA, I sat down with Mr. Thomas's mother and I made her a promise that her son was as valuable as any other person within our community, and that I would put resources on this case.
Wow.
And that I would do everything I could to make sure that her son had justice. And yesterday was a proud day for me.
Now, Donovan Thomas was not innocent. Come on now. He was a known gang member. So, again, shout out to Brian Steele for including the video and the timestamps. That makes things a lot easier. And y'all don't have to sit here and listen to me read what was being said. Below is a link to episode 3 of a podcast, King Slime, the prosecution of Young Thug and YSL, released in August 2023. All right. And prior to the jury selection was when this was released. The podcast has since stopped recording episodes, but was hosted by music journalist Christina Lee and the honorable reporter George I'm going to mess up his name, George C. District Attorney Fani Willis made it clear that she cannot provide specifics of the case. However, shares the following. And here's the segments here. We're not going to go too much into it. I could put the link to this, the links to this response in the description if y'all want to go through and see all of that too. We'll just read a short portion of what she said at the beginning of this podcast. District Attorney Willis says, "I remember when I first took office, we're screaming from the top of the top hill. We're screaming from the top of the top hills that there's a gang problem. And people were really actually kind of treating us like we were crazy, right? There's a gang problem in LA. There's a gang problem in Chicago. But they did not want to admit that there was such a gang problem right here in Atlanta. But we kept talking about facts I knew to be true because I knew crime waves. Oh, man. I knew that one important person got killed and we got a gang war for several years." Yeah, she's talking about Big Nut. Y'all saw, especially when this happened, talking about Lil Woody. He was even targeted several times after Big Nut got killed just for being connected to some of the people who were involved allegedly in Big Nut's shooting. And then it goes down. There's a couple other places. 3805, she says, "I hope that you know, for gang members, I am hated and feared because I'm not going to apologize for bringing gang warrants or educating the police on how to bring gang warrants and for prosecuting people that decide to get into that life." And it's weird too. It's weird to hear Fani say this now, how she's talked to Donovan's mother, you know, how she wanted justice for him, even with him being a known gang member himself. And then you guys saw, we covered this motion last week that they were saying, hey, we don't want y'all to paint Donovan Thomas in a bad light, obviously, because they're going to use this as a case against Young Thug. And this is arguably the biggest part of this case against Young Thug. They said, we don't want y'all to paint him in a bad light. It's not necessary and all this. It does seem a little strange that they're going through all these lengths to pretend like Donovan Thomas was completely guiltless in all of this. Anyway, lawyer loves motion to restrict extrajudicial statements must be rejected. It is rich with audacious and hypocritical. It is rich with audacious and hypocritical that the state needs to critique and unethical the single statement. Boy, this is reading so weird. It is rich, audacious, and hypocritical that the state seeks to critique as unethical the single statement by Young Thug's counsel, which contains accurate factual assertions. As an overarching principle, rule of professional responsibility 3.6 we talked about earlier, comment 1 makes clear that just like the framers of the United States Constitution envisioned almost 250 years ago, when they mandated that those accused of crimes are guaranteed the right to a public speedy trial. And then he quotes it here. The rule of professional responsibility 3.6 comment 1. Moreover, comments 5A and 5B delineate certain subjects about which a lawyer could speak, which are more likely to have a material prejudicial effect on the proceedings, and those subject areas are more likely than not to have no material prejudicial effect on a proceeding. In a criminal case, comments which are more likely to have a material prejudicial effect on proceedings include subjects related to the character, credibility, or reputation, or criminal record of a party, suspect in a criminal investigation, or witnesses, or the identity of a witness, or the expected testimony of a party witness. The possibility of a plea of guilty to the offense, or the existence or contents of a confession, admission, or statement given by a defendant or suspect, or that person's refusal or failure to make a statement. Phew, that's a lot of wordage there. What is more relevant to the issue at hand is the commentary relating to those subject areas more likely than not to have no material prejudicial effect on proceedings. The subject areas include information contained in public record, the scheduling or result of any step in litigation. And y'all saw Yak Gotti's representation, Doug Weinstein, mentioned this as well. He said, everything I said is in the public record. So trying to tell me that I can't talk about something that's in the public record not only is not in the best interest of my client, but it's my right to be able to do so. Every factual allegation in the statements made by Young Thug's counsel is contained in the public record. Specifically, Young Thug has repeatedly in public filings as well as by and through his counsel in open court maintained his innocence. Young Thug filed motions for a speedy trial. The recused judge so he cannot stand Judge Glanville. This is crazy. The recused judge. He doesn't even put his name in there. Man, come on, Brian. Brian, I'm gonna call you out. You gotta have a little bit of respect, okay? Jeez. Lawyer Love, Lawyer Hilton have been accused of and found to have run afoul of their duties under the law, and Judge Glanville, there we go, has been recused and disqualified from his role as trial judge based on a motion brought by Young Thug. Basically, Brian said, yeah, we ended this. We got to give some credit to Kayla too. All right. As this honorable court is aware, Young Thug's trial is televised live from gavel to gavel. The coverage is available to the public at the click of a link, even when not watched live, as recordings are maintained on youtube.com. Thus, the likelihood of Young Thug's counsel repetition of information in the public and or findings of the court could materially prejudice an adjunctive proceeding in the matter is absurd. He's right. Moreover, the jurors in this case have been provided cautionary instructions and admonitions countless times, at least daily over the 100 days of trial, not to listen to anything related to this case. Yeah, the entire trial is on YouTube, but y'all don't want us to talk on YouTube. It doesn't make any sense. So unlike pretrial comments, which the state is guilty of making, Fani, there's no basis for Young Thug's counsel to believe that this statement will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing an adjunctive proceeding. Now, we could go through some more of these, but come on, Brian Steele's right. Let's be real. We see enough evidence And this final statement alone, with him saying the entire trial has been on YouTube, and y'all don't want us to talk on YouTube, it doesn't make any sense. So let me know what y'all think in the comments. Is Brian Steele right? Should they be able to talk about this? Should they be able to talk about this on YouTube? It's up to you.